The power of not reacting. How to control your emotions. Introduction. Emotions are a powerful part of who we are, but too often they control us instead of the other way around. We've all been there, feeling frustrated, angry, or overwhelmed by a situation, and in those moments, our first instinct is to react. We snap, we lash out, or we shut down. But what if you could learn to control those reactions? What if you could stay calm no matter what's happening around you? The truth is, learning to control your emotions isn't about suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. It's about choosing how you respond when they arise. In this book, we'll explore the power of not reacting. You'll discover how emotional reactions can sabotage your happiness and success, and more importantly, how you can break free from that cycle. You'll learn practical, everyday strategies to keep your emotions in check, even in the most difficult situations. Imagine feeling calm, in control, and focused, no matter what life throws your way. That's what emotional control can bring into your life. This isn't just about managing your emotions in the short term. It's about turning emotional control into a habit that shapes the way you approach every part of your life. From handling stress at work to navigating relationships and handling criticism, emotional control can change the way you experience the world. If you're ready to take charge of your emotions and create a more peaceful, focused life, then keep reading. What you'll learn here has the potential to completely transform how you handle life's challenges. Chapter 1. The Danger of Emotional Reactions. People make a lot of decisions based on emotions. Some work out fine, but many lead to regret. A moment of anger, frustration, or disappointment can push someone to say or do something they wish they could take back. Emotional reactions often create more problems than they solve, yet they happen so fast that most don't realize the damage until it's too late. Losing control of emotions can turn small situations into big issues. A misunderstanding between friends can escalate into a major argument. A stressful day at work can lead to snapping at a loved one. One careless reaction can affect relationships, reputations, and personal peace. Every day, people experience moments that test their patience, and how they respond determines whether the outcome is positive or negative. When emotions take over, logic gets pushed aside. Someone might react aggressively in traffic, yell at a coworker over a minor mistake, or storm out of a conversation without listening to the other person. These actions don't come from a place of rational thinking. They come from an automatic, emotional response that feels right in the moment, but often leads to regret. The worst part is that once something is said or done, it can't be taken back. Words can't be erased, and actions can't be undone. Many conflicts could be avoided if people controlled their emotional reactions. Instead of yelling during an argument, pausing to think before speaking could lead to a better conversation. Instead of making a quick, emotional decision at work, stepping back and thinking logically could prevent a costly mistake. The ability to stay calm in difficult situations is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop. It doesn't mean ignoring emotions, but rather understanding them and choosing a better response. There's a big difference between reacting and responding. Reacting happens automatically without thought, often making a situation worse. Responding, on the other hand, involves thinking before acting. It's about taking a moment to assess the situation and choosing a response that won't create unnecessary problems. People who respond instead of react have more control over their lives because they don't let emotions dictate their actions. An emotional reaction is like adding fuel to a fire. If someone gets insulted and immediately fights back with harsh words, the conflict grows. If they take a moment to breathe and decide whether a response is even necessary, they take control of the situation instead of letting the situation control them. This approach prevents arguments from escalating, reduces stress, and strengthens relationships. Regret is a common result of emotional reactions. After an outburst, many people feel embarrassed or wish they had handled things differently. They replay the moment in their minds, thinking about what they should have said instead. This guilt and frustration build up over time, affecting self-confidence and personal happiness. Avoiding emotional reactions not only prevents conflict, but also helps maintain self-respect and inner peace. People who master their emotions earn more respect. When someone is known for staying calm under pressure, others see them as strong and reliable. They become the person others turn to for advice or guidance because they don't let emotions cloud their judgment. This ability to remain composed in stressful situations is a trait that separates those who struggle with emotional control from those who handle challenges with confidence. Controlling emotional reactions doesn't mean ignoring feelings or suppressing them. It means recognizing emotions as they arise and choosing the best way to deal with them. This skill takes practice, but over time, it becomes second nature. The key is awareness, paying attention to how emotions influence decisions and taking responsibility for responses. Small changes in daily interactions can lead to big improvements. When faced with criticism, instead of snapping back, a simple pause can prevent an argument. When feeling frustrated, taking a deep breath before speaking can change the direction of a conversation. When emotions start to rise, stepping away from the situation for a few minutes can make a huge difference. These small actions add up, creating a life with fewer regrets and stronger relationships. Learning to control emotional reactions is not about never feeling angry, sad, or frustrated. It's about knowing that emotions don't have to control actions. Some situations will always be frustrating, and people will always say things that are upsetting. But choosing not to react emotionally gives the power to handle these situations with a clear mind. Instead of being controlled by temporary emotions, people can choose responses that reflect their long-term goals and values. There's strength in staying calm. There's wisdom in thinking before speaking. There's power in not letting emotions dictate actions. A life with fewer emotional reactions is a life with more control, more peace, and more success. Chapter 2. How your mind tricks you into overreacting. The mind is a powerful tool, but it's not always on your side. It has a way of amplifying problems, making small issues seem bigger than they really are. A single negative comment can feel like an attack. A minor inconvenience can feel like a disaster, and a harmless mistake can seem unforgivable. Most emotional reactions don't come from reality. They come from how the mind interprets situations. When something upsetting happens, the brain quickly searches for similar past experiences. If someone was criticized harshly before, even a mild comment can trigger the same emotional response. If they've been ignored in the past, a delayed text reply might feel like rejection. These mental shortcuts were designed to help humans survive, but in everyday life, they often cause unnecessary stress. The mind also plays tricks by assuming the worst. If a friend doesn't respond to a message right away, thoughts may spiral into believing they're upset. If a boss calls for a meeting, panic might set in, assuming something bad is coming. These automatic thoughts are rarely accurate, yet they trigger strong emotions that lead to unnecessary reactions. Past experiences shape how situations are perceived. Someone who grew up in a critical environment may become defensive whenever feedback is given. A person who was betrayed before may assume dishonesty even when there's no real reason to believe it. These emotional reactions don't always match reality, but they feel real in the moment because the mind connects the present to the past. The brain also exaggerates emotions to make situations seem more urgent. If something feels frustrating, the mind may label it as unbearable. If someone is late, it may feel like a sign of disrespect. These overreactions happen because emotions influence thoughts, making problems appear larger than they are. Another trick the mind plays is focusing too much on what's negative. 100 good things could happen in a day, but one small setback can overshadow them all. This negativity bias causes strong emotional reactions because the mind gives more weight to what's wrong rather than what's right. People also react emotionally when they assume they know what others are thinking. If someone looks uninterested during a conversation, It's easy to assume they're bored or annoyed. But in reality, they may just be tired or lost in thought. These assumptions create unnecessary tension and lead to reactions based on false conclusions. Many reactions happen simply because the mind wants control. When something unpredictable happens, it creates discomfort. The urge to react quickly comes from a need to fix the situation and regain a sense of stability. But in most cases, reacting emotionally only makes things worse instead of better. Recognizing these mental patterns is the first step in breaking free from them. Instead of immediately believing every thought that appears, taking a step back and questioning it can prevent unnecessary reactions. Asking, "Is this really as bad as it feels?" Or, "Could there be another explanation?" can stop emotions from taking over. Training the mind to slow down before reacting takes practice, but it's possible. The more awareness there is about how thoughts influence emotions, the easier it becomes to control responses. Instead of letting automatic reactions take over, there's an opportunity to choose how to respond. A calmer, more controlled life isn't about ignoring emotions, but about understanding them. The mind will always try to make things seem worse than they are, but it doesn't have to be in charge. By recognizing its tricks and questioning emotional responses, it's possible to break free from overreacting and handle situations with clarity and confidence. Chapter 3. Recognizing your emotional triggers. Everyone has certain things that set them off. It might be a specific tone of voice, being interrupted while speaking, or feeling ignored. These triggers aren't random. They come from past experiences, personal insecurities, and deeply held beliefs. The problem is that most people react before realizing why they're upset. A situation unfolds, emotions rise, and before they know it, they've snapped, withdrawn, or acted in a way they later regret. Understanding emotional triggers is the key to breaking this cycle. When a strong reaction happens, there's always a reason behind it. The challenge is identifying what that reason is. Sometimes it's obvious. If someone has always struggled with feeling unappreciated, a lack of acknowledgement might trigger frustration. If they were often dismissed growing up, not being listened to can bring up old feelings of rejection. Other times the cause isn't so clear. A minor inconvenience might spark an intense reaction, leaving a person confused about why they felt so strongly. Most emotional triggers are tied to past wounds. A person who was constantly criticized may feel defensive even over constructive feedback. Someone who grew up in an unpredictable environment might feel anxious when plans suddenly change. These reactions aren't just about the present moment. They're a response to an old pattern that the mind has learned to protect itself from. This is why two people can experience the same situation and react completely differently. What deeply affects one person might not bother someone else at all. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward controlling them. The next time emotions rise suddenly, taking a moment to reflect can provide valuable insight. Asking what exactly caused the reaction, what past experience it reminds them of, and whether the current situation truly deserves such a strong response can help separate the past from the present. Often, just this awareness alone is enough to reduce the intensity of the reaction. Many people assume that if something triggers them, it means the other person is at fault. While external events do play a role, the real power lies in how they're interpreted. If two people are ignored in a conversation, one might shrug it off while the other feels deeply disrespected. The difference isn't in the event itself, but in the meaning assigned to it. By recognizing that reactions are personal, not universal, it becomes possible to take responsibility for emotions rather than blaming others. Some triggers are so deeply ingrained that they feel automatic. When someone gets defensive, shuts down, or lashes out, they often believe they had no choice, it just happened. But the truth is, reactions are habits. Just like any habit, they can be unlearned with practice. The key is slowing down the process. Instead of immediately reacting, pausing for even a few seconds can create enough space to make a different choice. The more often this is done, the weaker the trigger becomes over time. Identifying emotional triggers requires honesty. It's easy to say that other people are the problem, but true growth comes from looking inward. Instead of focusing on how someone else made them feel a certain way, asking why that feeling arose in the first place brings more clarity. This shift in perspective allows for more control and less emotional turbulence. Journaling can be a useful tool in this process. Writing down moments when strong emotions arise, what happened, and what thoughts came up can reveal patterns that weren't obvious before. Over time, certain themes will start to emerge. Whether it's a fear of rejection, a need for control, or past experiences shaping present reactions, recognizing these patterns makes them easier to manage. Conversations with trusted friends or mentors can also provide insight. Sometimes, an outside perspective helps pinpoint triggers that aren't immediately noticeable. People close to us often see patterns we're blind to. Being open to feedback and willing to explore emotions without judgment leads to deeper self-awareness. Once triggers are identified, creating a strategy to handle them is the next step. If certain situations consistently lead to frustration, preparing for them in advance can make a huge difference. For example, if criticism is a trigger, practicing the mindset that feedback is meant for growth rather than attack can soften the impact. If unexpected changes cause stress, learning to embrace flexibility can reduce emotional discomfort. The goal isn't to eliminate emotions, but to respond in a way that aligns with long-term well-being. Learning to recognize and manage emotional triggers isn't about avoiding difficult situations. Challenges will always come up, and people will continue to act in ways that may be frustrating or upsetting. But by understanding personal triggers, there's an opportunity to shift from automatic reactions to thoughtful responses. This not only reduces unnecessary stress, but also improves relationships, decision-making, and overall peace of mind. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional control. The more someone understands their own triggers, the less control those triggers have over them. Instead of being driven by past wounds, they gain the ability to navigate life with clarity, strength, and emotional balance. Chapter 4. The Science of Self-Control. Self-control is one of the most important skills a person can develop, yet it often feels like one of the hardest to master. Emotions have a way of taking over, making it difficult to think clearly or make rational choices. Understanding how self-control works on a biological and psychological level can provide the tools needed to manage emotions effectively. It's not about suppressing feelings, but learning how to respond in a way that prevents regret and unnecessary stress. The brain plays a huge role in emotional control. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logical thinking and decision-making, is what helps regulate impulses. When emotions become overwhelming, this area of the brain struggles to function properly. The amygdala, which processes threats and emotional responses, takes over and triggers reactions based on instinct rather than reason. This is why people often say things they don't mean or make choices they later wish they hadn't. Stress weakens self-control. When the mind is under pressure, it becomes harder to pause before reacting. Fatigue, hunger, and lack of sleep also make emotional regulation more difficult. This is why people are more likely to snap at others when they're exhausted or irritable. Understanding these influences can help in making better decisions. Taking care of physical and mental health isn't just about feeling good. It directly affects the ability to stay calm in difficult situations. Practicing delayed response is one of the best ways to strengthen self-control. Instead of immediately reacting to something upsetting, taking a few seconds to breathe can create the space needed to think clearly. The more this habit is built, the easier it becomes to resist emotional impulses. Over time, the brain adapts, making thoughtful responses more natural than quick reactions. Willpower works like a muscle. It gets stronger the more it's used. Small acts of self-discipline, like resisting the urge to check a phone during a conversation or holding back from interrupting someone, train the brain to develop patience. The more often self-control is exercised, the more automatic it becomes. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or ignoring feelings, but learning how to process them without letting them dictate actions. The way a person talks to themselves also affects their level of control. Negative inner dialogue can make it harder to manage emotions. If someone constantly tells themselves they have no patience or always lose their temper, they reinforce that belief and make it a reality. Shifting to a mindset that recognizes the ability to change makes a huge difference. Instead of saying, "I can't help but react," saying, "I'm learning to stay calm," rewires the brain for better emotional regulation. Building self-control requires setting clear intentions. Deciding in advance how to handle stressful situations prevents emotions from taking over in the moment. If certain environments or people tend to trigger strong reactions, mentally preparing for them allows for better responses. Visualizing, staying calm, and thinking through possible outcomes helps create a sense of control before the situation even happens. Physical actions also play a role in emotional regulation. Simple habits like slowing down speech, lowering the volume of the voice, or even unclenching the jaw and relaxing the hands can signal the brain to stay calm. The body and mind are connected, so adjusting physical responses can help bring emotions under control. Even something as simple as standing up straighter or taking deep breaths can create a shift in how a situation feels. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional control. Paying attention to thoughts, feelings, and behaviors makes it easier to recognize when emotions are starting to take over. When frustration starts to build or irritation begins to rise, noticing it in the early stages makes it possible to redirect the response before it escalates. The more tuned in a person is to their emotional state, the better they can manage it. Another important factor in developing self-control is recognizing that not everything needs a reaction. Many situations that trigger emotional responses aren't as serious as they feel in the moment. Learning to step back and ask whether something truly deserves energy and attention prevents unnecessary stress. Not every comment needs a response, and not every disagreement needs to turn into an argument. Choosing when to engage and when to let things go is a sign of emotional strength. Practicing self-control doesn't mean becoming emotionless or indifferent. It means having the ability to experience feelings without being ruled by them. Developing this skill takes time and effort, but the rewards are worth it. A person who can control their emotions has better relationships, makes wiser decisions, and experiences greater inner peace. They don't allow temporary feelings to dictate their actions, which leads to a more stable and fulfilling life. True self-control isn't about willpower alone. It's about building habits, developing self-awareness, and creating an environment that supports emotional regulation. It's about learning to respond instead of react, staying patient in difficult moments, and understanding that every emotion passes. The more this skill is practiced, the easier it becomes to handle any situation with clarity and confidence. Chapter 5. The cost of reacting versus the power of staying still. Reacting emotionally in the moment can feel satisfying, but it often comes at a cost. A single outburst, a harsh word spoken in frustration, or a rushed decision based on anger can create problems that take much longer to fix. Acting on impulse may provide temporary relief, but it usually leads to regret, damaged relationships, and unnecessary stress. On the other hand, learning to pause, reflect, and choose responses carefully leads to better outcomes. The ability to remain still when emotions rise is a sign of strength, not weakness. Many conflicts arise not because of what happened, but because of how someone reacted to it. A disagreement can be solved through calm discussion or turned into a heated argument, depending on how each person responds. A difficult situation can be handled with patience or made worse by immediate frustration. The difference isn't in the situation itself, but in the way it's approached. Holding back an emotional reaction doesn't mean ignoring feelings. It means recognizing that not every moment requires a strong response. People often feel pressure to react quickly, especially in stressful situations. Social media, news, and everyday interactions encourage instant responses. However, quick reactions are rarely thoughtful. When emotions take over, logic and reason are pushed aside. A delay of even a few seconds can make all the difference. Taking a deep breath, stepping back, or mentally counting before responding gives the mind enough time to think. This small shift can prevent saying something that can't be taken back or making a choice that leads to regret. The cost of reacting impulsively isn't just emotional, it can affect relationships, careers, and overall well-being. A single moment of frustration at work can damage professional opportunities. A quick temper in personal relationships can create unnecessary distance. A hasty decision made in anger can have lasting consequences. Every time emotions dictate actions, control is handed over to external circumstances rather than being kept within. The ability to stay still in the face of difficulty allows for clearer thinking and better judgment. Some people mistake stillness for passivity, but they are not the same. Choosing not to react immediately doesn't mean doing nothing. It means assessing the situation, understanding the emotions involved, and deciding the best way to move forward. In many cases, silence or a delayed response holds more power than an immediate outburst. It allows time to see the bigger picture, rather than getting caught up in the heat of the moment. Mastering the skill of staying still starts with awareness. Noticing when emotions begin to rise and recognizing the urge to react is the first step. The next step is practicing control by pausing before taking action. This doesn't mean ignoring how one feels, but rather creating space between the emotion and the response. Instead of being led by impulse, decisions become intentional. Over time, the benefits of emotional control become clear. Conversations become more productive, conflicts are handled with more wisdom, and stress levels decrease. Rather than being pulled into unnecessary drama, energy is directed toward what truly matters. The ability to remain still during challenging moments creates a sense of power over one's own mind. It shifts control from external situations to internal strength. The challenge isn't in learning why emotional control is important, it's in applying it daily. It takes practice to remain calm when others are upset, to resist the urge to prove a point in an argument, or to walk away from unnecessary conflict. But each moment of restraint builds discipline. Each decision to pause strengthens self-control. The more this habit is developed, the easier it becomes to navigate life with confidence and clarity. Choosing when to respond and when to stay silent is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. Every reaction is a choice. While emotions can be strong, they don't have to dictate actions. The power of staying still isn't about suppressing feelings, it's about using them wisely. By mastering the ability to hold back unnecessary reactions, life becomes more peaceful, relationships become stronger, and decisions become clearer. True control isn't about dominating others, it's about mastering oneself. Chapter 6. The Power of Silence over Emotional Outbursts. Silence has a power that most people overlook. In a world where everyone feels the need to express themselves immediately, staying quiet in the face of strong emotions is a skill that few develop. It is easy to believe that speaking up in the heat of the moment is the only way to be heard, but reacting emotionally often does more harm than good. Words spoken in frustration can escalate a situation, damage relationships, and lead to regret. Resisting the urge to lash out or defend oneself can turn frustration into clarity and conflict into understanding. When emotions are high, silence provides an opportunity to process thoughts before they turn into words. Many problems are made worse simply because people respond without thinking. A moment of pause allows space to consider whether something is worth engaging in or whether walking away is the better choice. Instead of being caught up in the rush of emotions, silence helps create distance from the immediate reaction. Some people associate silence with weakness, as if not responding means losing control. but real strength comes from knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet. It takes more discipline to hold back a reaction than to give in to impulse. Staying silent does not mean agreeing with everything or allowing others to walk over you. It means choosing when a response is necessary and when it serves no purpose. There is wisdom in knowing that not every comment needs an answer, not every insult requires a defense, and not every disagreement needs to be turned into an argument. The ability to remain quiet in difficult situations builds patience. When someone insults or criticizes, the instinct is to defend or fight back, but reacting emotionally only gives the other person more control. By staying silent, the power remains with you. The person trying to provoke a reaction loses their influence when they see that their words have no effect. Over time, this practice develops resilience, making it easier to handle negativity without being affected by it. Choosing silence also improves listening. Many misunderstandings happen because people are too focused on their own emotions to truly hear what the other person is saying. Instead of reacting immediately, staying quiet allows time to absorb the words being spoken, consider their meaning, and respond with thought rather than impulse. This leads to better communication, stronger relationships, and fewer unnecessary conflicts. There is also a deep sense of peace that comes from not being controlled by the need to always respond. Engaging in every argument, proving a point in every discussion, and defending oneself against every criticism is exhausting. Choosing silence in situations that do not serve personal growth allows energy to be saved for what truly matters. Life becomes calmer when there is no need to react to every challenge that arises. Silence is especially powerful in moments of anger. Speaking in the heat of the moment often leads to regret. Harsh words spoken in frustration cannot be taken back, and they leave a lasting impact. Taking a step back and refusing to engage until emotions settle prevents unnecessary damage. Even if the intention is to resolve an issue, addressing it with a calm mind is always more effective than reacting out of anger. There is a difference between holding back emotions and suppressing them. Staying silent does not mean ignoring feelings, but rather choosing the right time and place to express them. Emotions need to be processed, but they do not need to be acted on immediately. Writing thoughts down, talking to someone trustworthy later, or simply waiting until the initial frustration fades can prevent a situation from escalating unnecessarily. Another advantage of mastering silence is the ability to observe rather than react. People who constantly speak without thinking often miss important details. By staying quiet and paying attention, much more can be learned about a situation, about others, and even about oneself. This awareness leads to smarter decisions and a greater sense of control over emotions. There will always be moments when responding is necessary, but the key is knowing when that is. Not every situation deserves attention, and not every challenge requires a reaction. There is freedom in choosing to remain silent when it serves no real purpose to speak. Instead of being drawn into unnecessary conflict, energy can be focused on things that bring growth, peace, and true understanding. The ability to remain silent when emotions are high is not easy, but it is worth practicing. Over time, it strengthens self-discipline, improves communication, and creates a more balanced way of handling life's challenges. True power is not found in the loudest voice or the quickest response, but in the ability to stay still, observe, and respond only when it truly matters. Chapter 7. How to pause before reacting. Reacting without thinking is one of the biggest reasons people say and do things they later regret. It happens so fast an insult, a frustrating situation, or a stressful moment triggers an immediate response. Before there's time to think, words are spoken, actions are taken, and the damage is done. The ability to pause before reacting is one of the most powerful tools for emotional control. It creates the space needed to make better decisions, avoid unnecessary conflict, and respond in a way that leads to positive outcomes instead of regret. Pausing doesn't mean ignoring feelings or pushing emotions aside. It simply allows a person to regain control before emotions dictate their actions. The goal is not to suppress reactions, but to manage them in a way that aligns with long-term well-being. A simple pause gives the mind enough time to shift from an automatic emotional response to a more thoughtful and intentional one. It stops a small problem from turning into something bigger and prevents the kind of mistakes that happen when emotions take over completely. One of the biggest challenges is breaking the habit of immediate reaction. The brain is wired to respond quickly, especially in stressful situations. When something feels like a threat, whether it's an argument, a piece of bad news, or an unexpected challenge, the emotional part of the brain takes control. In these moments, patience disappears, and logic is often forgotten. This is why so many people say things they don't mean when they're angry, or make bad decisions when they're overwhelmed. Taking a few seconds to pause allows the thinking part of the brain to catch up, providing a chance to act with intention rather than impulse. Building the habit of pausing starts with awareness. Recognizing the early signs of frustration, anger, or stress helps create a moment of choice. Instead of immediately reacting, noticing the feeling as it arises makes it possible to take control before emotions take over. This awareness gives the power to decide whether a response is necessary, and if so, what kind of response will be the most effective. Breathing deeply is one of the simplest ways to create a pause. When emotions rise, the body reacts physically, heart rate increases, breathing becomes shallow, and tension builds. Slowing down the breath signals the brain to relax, creating the space needed to think clearly. Just a few deep breaths can shift the entire experience, preventing a knee-jerk reaction and making room for a thoughtful response. Another way to strengthen this habit is to mentally step back from the situation. Asking simple questions like, "Is this worth my energy?" or "Will this matter tomorrow?" helps create perspective. Many emotional reactions are based on temporary feelings rather than real, lasting problems. Taking a moment to evaluate the situation from a bigger picture can make the difference between reacting in the moment and responding in a way that aligns with long-term goals. Silence is often the best response in emotionally charged situations. When tensions are high, words spoken too quickly can add fuel to the fire. Choosing to wait, listen, and observe instead of immediately reacting creates a sense of control. It also gives others a chance to calm down, leading to more productive conversations rather than heated arguments. People who master the ability to pause before reacting often find that they no longer get pulled into unnecessary drama. One of the biggest benefits of pausing is that it builds self-respect. Acting out of impulse often leads to guilt and regret. Saying something hurtful, making a reckless decision, or responding with anger usually doesn't feel good afterward. In contrast, knowing that a situation was handled with patience and control brings a sense of confidence. The ability to stay calm even when provoked is a sign of true strength. Not every situation requires a reaction. Sometimes the best response is to walk away or do nothing at all. Many conflicts dissolve on their own when they aren't given attention. When emotions aren't fed with an immediate reaction, they lose their power. Learning to pause before responding makes it easier to recognize when something isn't worth the time or energy. The process of mastering this skill takes practice, but every small effort counts. Each time a pause is used instead of an instant reaction, emotional control strengthens. Over time, it becomes easier to handle stressful situations without being overwhelmed by emotions. This habit doesn't just improve personal well-being, also leads to better relationships, smarter decisions, and a greater sense of inner peace. Pausing before reacting is one of the simplest, yet most effective ways to take control of emotions. It turns impulsive reactions into thoughtful responses, helps avoid unnecessary conflict, and creates a sense of power over one's own mind. Developing this habit leads to a calmer, more intentional way of handling challenges, proving that real strength is found in patience, not in quick reactions. Chapter 8. The Art of Detachment. not letting things get to you. Not everything deserves an emotional reaction. Many people spend their days getting worked up over things they can't control, allowing small inconveniences, thoughtless comments, or unexpected challenges to ruin their mood. They carry frustration from one moment to the next, letting negative energy build until it consumes them. Learning to detach from situations that don't serve personal growth creates a sense of freedom. It allows for better decision-making, a calmer mind, and a more peaceful life. Detachment doesn't mean not caring, it means choosing where to place emotional energy. There is a difference between reacting to everything and responding to what truly matters. People who struggle with detachment often take things too personally. A rude stranger, an unkind remark, or a minor setback feels like a direct attack. But most of the time, these things have nothing to do with them. Someone's bad mood, impatience, or negativity is often a reflection of their own struggles, not a personal insult. Taking on that energy only creates unnecessary stress. One of the first steps in mastering detachment is recognizing what is within personal control. Time, energy, and attention are limited resources. Wasting them on things that don't matter leads to exhaustion and frustration. When something upsetting happens, it helps to ask, is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, walking away mentally and emotionally is the best choice. A major part of this practice is refusing to let other people's emotions dictate personal feelings. Many get caught up in the moods of those around them, reacting to their frustration, anger, or negativity. When someone is rude, the instinct is to be rude back. If someone is in a bad mood, it's easy to absorb that energy and become irritated as well. But emotional detachment means recognizing that other people's feelings are their responsibility. Just because someone else is upset doesn't mean it has to affect personal peace. It also means accepting that not everything needs to be fixed. Some people waste energy trying to change things that are beyond their control. They get upset about other people's choices, frustrated with situations they can't change, or stressed about problems that aren't theirs to solve. Learning to step back and let things be as they are, without feeling the need to interfere, removes unnecessary pressure. Some battles are not worth fighting, some arguments are not worth having. Detachment allows for better responses to difficult situations. When emotions aren't in control, choices become clearer. Instead of reacting impulsively, it's easier to take a step back and see the situation for what it is. This prevents unnecessary conflict and leads to better decision-making. People who practice detachment rarely make choices they later regret because they give themselves the space to think before acting. This mindset also helps in personal relationships. When attachment to specific outcomes is too strong, disappointment is inevitable. Expecting others to behave a certain way or relying on them for happiness creates frustration. People are unpredictable. They make mistakes, change their minds, and act in ways that don't always make sense. Detachment doesn't mean giving up on relationships or not caring about others. It means understanding that each person is responsible for their own actions and emotions. By releasing the need to control how others behave, relationships become healthier and more peaceful. Another key part of detachment is learning to let go of the past. Many hold on to resentment, regret, or pain from previous experiences, allowing them to shape their present emotions. But carrying past wounds only makes the present harder. The ability to move forward without dragging old emotions along creates a sense of freedom. It doesn't mean forgetting or pretending things didn't happen. It means choosing not to let the past control the present. Detaching from external validation is also important. Many people base their emotions on how they are perceived by others. A single comment, a lack of attention, or an unexpected criticism can ruin their mood. But living this way is exhausting. True confidence comes from within, not from external approval. The opinions of others are constantly changing. Allowing them to determine self-worth leads to a cycle of insecurity. Emotional detachment from outside validation brings a stronger sense of self and a more stable mindset. Practicing detachment takes time, but every small effort makes a difference. The more this habit is developed, the easier it becomes to let go of things that don't matter. Small irritations stop feeling important. Unnecessary arguments lose their appeal. Stressful situations become easier to navigate. Instead of reacting emotionally to everything, responses become intentional and thoughtful. A detached mindset doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means choosing where to invest emotional energy wisely. It's about deciding which situations deserve attention and which are best ignored. It's about valuing peace over unnecessary drama. The ability to remain calm and unaffected by external chaos is a sign of true emotional strength. Mastering detachment leads to a life with less stress, fewer regrets, and a stronger sense of inner peace. Chapter 9. Mastering emotional boundaries. In every relationship, setting boundaries is crucial. Boundaries help define where one person ends and another begins, and they create a sense of respect and understanding between individuals. Emotional boundaries are especially important because they protect personal space and ensure that emotions aren't overwhelmed or manipulated by others. Without healthy boundaries, it's easy to become overwhelmed by other people's needs, expectations, and emotions, and before long, it feels like everyone else's feelings come before your own. Setting emotional boundaries isn't about building walls or pushing people away. Instead, it's about knowing where your emotional responsibility ends and where someone else's begins. When boundaries are clear, it's easier to respond to others without losing control of your own feelings. You don't need to absorb someone else's anger or take on their stress as your own. You also don't need to feel guilty for saying no or for choosing your own well-being over someone else's demands. The first step to mastering emotional boundaries is recognizing when they've been crossed. It's easy to get caught up in someone else's emotions, especially if they're close to you. If a friend, family member, or co-worker is upset, it can be tempting to step in and try to fix the situation. However, this often leads to emotional exhaustion and a loss of self-identity. Instead of focusing on how someone else is feeling, check in with yourself. Are you feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, or drained? If so, it might be time to step back and reassess. One of the most powerful tools for maintaining emotional boundaries is learning how to say no. Saying no doesn't mean being rude or unhelpful. It simply means protecting your own time, energy, and peace of mind. Saying yes to everything, even when it's not in your best interest, creates resentment and burnout. Overcommitting, whether it's taking on more tasks at work, agreeing to plans you don't really want to be part of, or constantly putting others' needs ahead of your own, leaves you with little energy to care for yourself. Learning to say no also means not feeling guilty about it. Too many people struggle with guilt when they turn down requests. They feel like they're letting others down or being selfish. But in reality, saying no is an act of self-respect. It shows that you value your own well-being and understand the importance of preserving your emotional energy. Without emotional boundaries, it's easy to lose yourself in the needs of others. You might find yourself caught up in someone else's drama or taking on their emotional burdens without realizing it. By saying no when necessary, you give yourself the space to maintain your own balance. Another critical aspect of emotional boundaries is learning how to avoid taking things personally. People often project their own emotions and issues onto others. If someone is having a bad day and lashes out at you, it's easy to internalize that attack. But in reality, their frustration likely has nothing to do with you. When you take things personally, you allow someone else's emotional state to determine how you feel. This gives them far too much power over your emotional well-being. Instead, remind yourself that their words or actions are a reflection of their own struggles, not an attack on you. Healthy boundaries also involve knowing when to walk away. There are times when engaging in an argument or debate only drains emotional energy. Instead of continuing a conversation that's going nowhere or letting an argument escalate, stepping away can help protect your peace. Walking away doesn't mean avoiding the issue forever. but it does mean removing yourself from a situation that's no longer productive. In these moments, emotional boundaries give you the freedom to preserve your energy for more important matters. Part of setting emotional boundaries is recognizing your limits. Everyone has a breaking point, and it's important to know where yours is. You don't have to be available to everyone all the time, nor do you need to solve everyone's problems. Recognizing when you've reached your limit allows you to take a step back and recharge before engaging again. Whether it's a few minutes of deep breathing, taking a walk, or simply stepping away from a stressful situation, taking care of yourself ensures that you can show up as your best self when it counts. When you practice setting emotional boundaries, you also teach others how to respect them. People who don't have clear boundaries often find that others take advantage of their time, energy, and emotional availability. But when you communicate your boundaries clearly and stick to them, others learn to respect your limits. This doesn't mean being rigid or unkind. It just means knowing that your emotional well-being matters and that you deserve to be treated with respect. It's important to remember that emotional boundaries are personal. What feels like a healthy boundary for one person might not work for someone else. The key is to listen to your own needs and learn to protect your emotional space in a way that works for you. Some people need more alone time, while others thrive in social settings. Some need clear communication, while others prefer more space. Recognizing what feels right for you is the foundation of emotional self-care. Building emotional boundaries isn't always easy, especially for those who have spent years ignoring their own needs in favor of others. It can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to constantly putting others first. However, once these boundaries are in place, you'll find that life becomes more balanced and fulfilling. You'll have more energy, a clearer sense of identity, and a greater ability to respond to life's challenges in a calm, measured way. Setting emotional boundaries isn't just about saying no to others, it's also about saying yes to yourself. By prioritizing your emotional health, you give yourself the space to thrive, grow, and maintain a sense of inner peace. Emotional boundaries are a key part of emotional control. They protect your energy, your peace, and your well-being, allowing you to show up as the best version of yourself. Chapter 10. Handling criticism and insults without reacting. Handling criticism and insults without reacting can be one of the most empowering skills to master. It's easy to take things personally, especially when the words strike a nerve or touch on something vulnerable. But responding to criticism with calm and control, instead of reacting emotionally, creates space for growth and self-assurance. When you can hear criticism and not feel it deep within, you gain a sense of inner peace that allows you to move through life with confidence, regardless of what others say. The first step in handling criticism without reacting is understanding that everyone's opinion is subjective. People see the world through their own experiences, beliefs, and emotions. What may seem like a harsh judgment or insult may not even be meant in the way it is received. People don't always intend to hurt others with their words, even though it might feel that way in the moment. Most of the time, people are simply projecting their own thoughts, frustrations, or insecurities. They're speaking from their own point of view, not necessarily trying to tear you down. The key to not taking things personally is recognizing that someone else's words are not a reflection of your worth. The moment someone criticizes you, it's not about who you are, but about their own perspective. You are not defined by what someone else says. Their words don't hold power unless you allow them to. This means that when faced with criticism or an insult, you can choose to let it bounce off you rather than absorb it into your sense of self. A powerful way to handle criticism is by focusing on the message, not the emotion behind it. Often, criticism comes with a lot of emotional charge. The delivery might feel harsh, and it's easy to get caught up in the way it was said rather than the content itself. But even the most poorly delivered criticism can contain a useful point. It might not be wrapped in the nicest language, but there may still be something to learn from it. Instead of focusing on the negative delivery, try to listen for the substance. What is the person really trying to communicate? Is there an opportunity to improve or see things from a different angle? Separating the message from the emotion gives you the ability to process criticism constructively. It's also helpful to take a moment before responding. Our immediate instinct when criticized or insulted is often to defend ourselves, to prove that we are right, or to counterattack. But when you react impulsively, you may end up saying something you'll regret or escalating the situation. Instead, take a deep breath and give yourself a moment to pause. This short pause allows you to regain control over your emotions and choose how to respond thoughtfully. It's not about being silent in the face of criticism, but about responding in a calm and measured way rather than acting out of hurt or frustration. Sometimes, criticism can trigger deep emotions because it taps into a personal insecurity or vulnerability. Perhaps someone points out something that you already feel self-conscious about, or they criticize an area you've been working hard to improve. In these moments, it's easy to feel exposed or judged. But instead of reacting defensively, take the opportunity to ask yourself why it stings so much. What is it about this criticism that bothers you? Is it something you can work on, or is it something that doesn't need to define you? Reflecting on the root cause of your reaction can help you better understand your emotional triggers and give you the power to detach from them. It's important to remember that not all criticism needs a response. In many situations, responding to an insult or harsh comment only fuels the fire. The more you engage, the more the situation escalates. Sometimes the best way to handle criticism is to simply walk away. You don't have to justify yourself, explain your actions, or argue your case. Letting go of the need to defend yourself can be incredibly liberating. By not reacting, you take away the other person's ability to control your emotions and allow the situation to fade away without any additional drama. Another helpful approach is to remind yourself of your own value. When faced with criticism, it's easy to forget who you are and what you stand for. Negative comments can make you doubt your abilities or question your worth, but it's essential to hold on to your self-assurance. When you know your strengths and have confidence in yourself, criticism has less power over you. You understand that no one else's opinion can define your value or limit your potential. With this mindset, it becomes easier to hear criticism without letting it shake your sense of self. Furthermore, handling criticism with grace can actually lead to personal growth. By choosing to respond calmly and thoughtfully, you create an opportunity to learn. Sometimes, criticism is an invitation to examine yourself, your actions, or your behavior. Even if the delivery isn't kind, there can still be valuable feedback within the message. Embracing constructive criticism with an open mind helps you improve and move forward. It's about taking what's useful and letting go of the rest. By not reacting impulsively, you demonstrate emotional maturity and a willingness to grow. When someone insults you or offers harsh criticism, it's important to check whether their opinion truly matters to you. If the person is someone whose judgment you respect, their feedback might be worth considering. However, if the person is someone whose opinion holds no real weight in your life, their words should be seen for what they are, simply one person's opinion, not a reflection of your worth. Letting go of the need for approval from others frees you from the weight of unnecessary criticism. Above all, remember that handling criticism with emotional control doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about acknowledging the emotion without letting it dictate your behavior. It's about taking control of your responses and choosing not to let others dictate how you feel. When you can handle criticism with poise, you gain a sense of power over your emotional world. You no longer give others the ability to destabilize your peace of mind. Instead, you become the calm in the storm, no matter what others may say or do. Over time, the more you practice handling criticism without reacting, the easier it becomes. It becomes second nature to pause before speaking, to separate the message from the emotion, and to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. You stop letting insults or negative comments dictate your mood, and instead, you choose to maintain your peace, regardless of external circumstances. The ability to handle criticism with grace and composure is not only a sign of emotional maturity, but also an essential skill for personal growth and self-mastery. Chapter 11. How to stop reacting to small things. It's easy to get caught up in the small things that happen throughout the day. A slight inconvenience, an offhand comment, or an unexpected delay can all trigger emotions, leading to unnecessary stress or frustration. But the truth is, most of these small things aren't worth your emotional energy. The ability to stop reacting to minor annoyances can have a profound effect on your overall well-being and emotional health. Often, we find ourselves reacting to little things because we feel like we don't have control over them. Maybe someone cuts us off in traffic, or an email doesn't arrive on time. We can't always control what happens, but we can control how we respond. Learning not to react to small things is one of the best ways to protect your peace of mind. It's about stepping back, taking a deep breath, and choosing to let it go rather than allowing it to ruin your day. One of the most important steps in letting go of small irritations is recognizing their insignificance in the grand scheme of life. When you're caught in a moment of frustration, it's easy to think that the small thing in front of you is the end of the world. You might start obsessing over it, or let it take up more mental space than it deserves. But if you take a moment to put it into perspective, you'll realize that most of these things won't matter in the long run. The person who cut you off in traffic, they've probably forgotten about it already. That small mistake at work, it's likely not as big of a deal as you think. By recognizing how insignificant these moments are, you can avoid giving them more emotional weight than they deserve. Instead of reacting right away, practice taking a pause. When something small happens that usually triggers you, resist the urge to respond impulsively. Instead, take a few deep breaths and give yourself time to think. Ask yourself whether this moment is worth your emotional energy. Is it something that will matter tomorrow, next week, or even next month? If not, then it's probably not worth getting upset about. In that brief moment of pause, you can shift your mindset from frustration to calm, which helps you maintain control over your emotions. Another key element of handling small things without reacting is building emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, stress, or challenges without letting them derail your mood or mindset. When you're emotionally resilient, you understand that things won't always go as planned, and that's okay. Life is full of ups and downs, and the ability to remain steady in the face of small annoyances is a sign of inner strength. The more you practice not reacting to the little things, the stronger your emotional resilience will become. Over time, you'll find that you don't get thrown off course as easily, and you'll feel more in control of your reactions. One common mistake people make when trying not to react to small things is ignoring their feelings. It's important to note that not reacting doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending you're fine when you're not. It's normal to feel frustrated or annoyed by small things, but it's how you respond to those feelings that matters. Instead of reacting immediately, acknowledge the feeling and let it pass. Recognize that it's just an emotion and you don't need to act on it. Feelings are temporary and they don't define your actions. By giving yourself permission to feel without reacting, you give yourself the space to regain control over your emotional response. Sometimes, small things bother us because they remind us of larger issues we're facing in our lives. For example, being stuck in traffic might trigger feelings of helplessness, or a minor mistake at work might tap into deeper insecurities about our performance. When small things bother you more than they should, it might be a sign that there's something else beneath the surface. Instead of reacting to the minor issue, take a moment to reflect on what's really going on. Are you stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed by something bigger? Identifying the root cause of your emotional reaction allows you to address the underlying issue rather than getting caught up in the smaller distractions. It's also important to remember that you don't need to be perfect in your emotional control. There will be times when small things get under your skin, and that's okay. The goal isn't to be completely unaffected by everything that happens around you, but to learn how to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. It's a practice, not a destination. The more you practice stepping back and choosing not to react to small things, the easier it becomes to do so in the future. If you find yourself getting irritated by small things on a regular basis, it might be helpful to ask yourself why. Sometimes, frequent irritability can be a sign of deeper stress, exhaustion, or frustration in other areas of your life. By identifying the sources of your stress, you can work to address them directly. For example, if you're constantly irritated by minor things at work, it could be a sign that you need to set clearer boundaries, delegate tasks, or ask for support. When you can identify the root cause of your irritability, you can take steps to address it, making it easier to let go of small annoyances. One technique for managing small irritations is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of staying present in the moment and being aware of your thoughts and emotions without judgment. When you practice mindfulness, you become more aware of your reactions and can make a conscious choice not to engage with negative emotions. Mindfulness helps you become an observer of your thoughts, rather than getting caught up in them. When you notice yourself getting frustrated over something small, mindfulness allows you to acknowledge the feeling without getting lost in it. You can then let it go and return to a state of calm. It's also helpful to develop a mindset of gratitude. When you focus on what's going well in your life, it becomes easier to let go of small irritations. If you find yourself getting upset over minor things, take a moment to reflect on the bigger picture. What are you grateful for today? What positive things are happening in your life right now? Shifting your focus to gratitude helps you see the good, rather than getting stuck on the small things that don't really matter. Learning not to react to small things is a powerful tool for emotional control. When you stop letting the little annoyances of life dictate your mood, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters. Life is full of challenges, but reacting to small things only adds unnecessary stress. By practicing emotional control in these small moments, you'll find that you become more resilient, more peaceful, and more in control of your emotions overall. Chapter 12. Managing stress without emotional outbursts. Stress is a part of life that can't always be avoided. It's natural to feel stressed out from time to time, whether it's because of work, family responsibilities, or personal challenges. But one thing that can make all the difference in how you cope with stress is how you respond to it. Stressful situations often trigger emotional reactions, leading to outbursts or frustration. But the key to managing stress without losing control over your emotions is to practice emotional restraint, to learn how to stay calm even when life feels overwhelming. A big part of managing stress without reacting is recognizing when it's happening. Stress often builds up gradually, and before you know it, it can feel like a pressure cooker that's ready to explode. That's when you need to recognize the signs, whether it's physical tension, racing thoughts, or a sense of being overwhelmed. The moment you become aware that you're stressed is the moment you gain the power to control it. If you can catch yourself before the emotions take over, you have the ability to shift your mindset and keep your reactions in check. One of the best ways to manage stress without reacting is to learn how to breathe. It sounds simple, but deep, slow breathing can have a profound effect on your ability to remain calm under pressure. When you're stressed, your body goes into a fight or flight mode, and your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. This only increases your sense of panic. By taking a few deep breaths, you can calm your nervous system and break the cycle of stress. Focus on your breathing for just a few minutes, inhaling deeply through your nose and exhaling slowly through your mouth. This practice gives you a moment of clarity and helps bring your emotional state back into balance. Another important aspect of managing stress without reacting is learning how to prioritize. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you have too much on your plate, and stress often comes from trying to do everything at once. But not everything requires your immediate attention or emotional energy. When you feel the weight of stress bearing down on you, take a step back and evaluate what's truly important. What tasks need to be done right now, and what can wait? By breaking down your responsibilities into manageable pieces, you'll find it easier to stay calm and focused, even in the midst of stress. Time management also plays a huge role in how we handle stress. When we're pressed for time or juggling multiple tasks, we're more likely to feel stressed and react emotionally. Learning how to manage your time more effectively can reduce the pressure and allow you to stay level-headed. Start by planning out your day, setting clear priorities, and giving yourself breaks. A well-structured day, where you're in control of your schedule, helps reduce the chaos that often leads to stress. It's also essential to recognize that not all stress is negative. Some stress can actually be motivating. It pushes us to take action, to focus, and to rise to the occasion. But there's a fine line between productive stress and overwhelming stress. When stress becomes overwhelming, it's important to find ways to release it without reacting impulsively. This could be through physical exercise, talking things through with someone you trust, or taking a few moments of solitude to gather your thoughts. The idea is to release the tension in a way that doesn't involve emotional outbursts or unnecessary reactions. A big challenge when it comes to managing stress is dealing with things outside of our control. Sometimes, stress comes from situations or people that we can't change, no matter how much we wish we could. It might be a challenging work environment, difficult family dynamics, or unforeseen circumstances. The key in these situations is acceptance. You can't control everything that happens around you, but you can control how you react to it. The more you accept that some things are beyond your control, the less stress you'll carry. This mindset shift helps reduce the emotional charge of stressful situations and gives you the space to choose a calm, measured response. Building emotional resilience is another key factor in managing stress without reacting. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from difficult situations, and it plays a huge role in how we respond to stress. When you're emotionally resilient, you're less likely to let stress overwhelm you. You're able to handle the challenges of life with greater ease and find ways to adapt when things don't go as planned. Strengthening your emotional resilience takes time, but it's a crucial skill for managing stress in a healthy way. In addition to resilience, self-care is an essential component of stress management. When we're burned out or exhausted, stress becomes much harder to handle. Taking care of your body and mind helps you build a buffer against the pressures of life. Get enough sleep, eat well, exercise regularly, and engage in activities that bring you joy and relaxation. When you prioritize self-care, you're better equipped to handle stress without reacting emotionally. It's about giving yourself the energy and resources you need to cope with the demands of life. Managing stress also means recognizing when you need help. Sometimes we try to carry everything on our own, thinking that asking for help is a sign of weakness. But the reality is, asking for support is a strength. Whether it's talking to a friend, seeking guidance from a mentor, or consulting a professional, reaching out for help can provide relief and perspective. When you're feeling stressed, don't be afraid to lean on others. You don't have to go through it alone, and sometimes just sharing your feelings can take a load off your shoulders. There's also power in laughter. When stress is high and emotions are running wild, laughter can break the tension and reset your emotional state. Watching a funny video, sharing a laugh with a friend, or simply finding humor in a stressful situation can shift your perspective and help you let go of the stress. Humor helps us take ourselves less seriously and reminds us that life is full of ups and downs. By allowing yourself to laugh, you create space for joy, which can counteract the effects of stress. And remember that stress is a normal part of life, and it's okay to feel stressed at times. The goal isn't to eliminate stress completely, but to manage how it affects you. By practicing emotional control, recognizing the signs of stress early on, and responding with calm, you'll become more resilient in the face of stress. Over time, you'll find that stress doesn't have the same grip on you that it once did. Instead of reacting to it, you'll be able to manage it in a way that empowers you to stay focused, calm, and in control. Chapter 13. How to stay emotionally neutral in heated moments. In emotionally charged situations, it can be extremely difficult to stay calm. It's human nature to feel a rush of anger or frustration when someone pushes your buttons, especially if you feel attacked or misunderstood. But the real power lies not in the immediate reaction, but in your ability to hold back, to pause for just a moment, and to choose how you respond. The key to staying emotionally neutral, especially when things are heated, is mastering the art of observation instead of reacting impulsively. When tensions rise, it's easy to get swept up in the moment. The more someone raises their voice, criticizes, or challenges you, the more your own emotions may escalate in response. The body reacts instinctively to such stresses, and without realizing it, you might feel your heart rate increase, your fists clench, or your thoughts get clouded with anger. But you can break this cycle. Instead of getting caught up in the storm, you can take a step back, observe the situation, and decide whether or not it's worth your emotional investment. One of the most effective ways to stay emotionally neutral in these situations is to develop the habit of breathing deeply. It's a simple technique, but it works wonders when it comes to regaining control over your emotions. When you feel yourself becoming upset, your body enters a fight or flight mode. This can cause your emotions to overtake your ability to think rationally. Taking a few slow, deep breaths can slow down your heart rate, lower your blood pressure, and create the space you need to regain clarity. By focusing on your breath, you allow yourself the time to separate your automatic emotional response from the situation itself. Another useful tool is reframing the situation in your mind. Instead of seeing it as an attack or personal affront, view it as an opportunity for learning or growth. Sometimes, the things that trigger us are based on misunderstandings or the result of someone else's stress. Rather than internalizing what's happening, try to step outside of it and consider the bigger picture. This shift in perspective can be a game changer, allowing you to navigate the situation with calmness and insight instead of reacting from a place of hurt or anger. It's also important to remember that you don't have to respond right away. In fact, giving yourself some time to process the situation before reacting can often lead to better outcomes. When emotions run high, your initial response may not be your best one. You might say something you regret, or you could make a decision that you later realize wasn't the right one. Taking a moment to pause, whether it's a few seconds or a few minutes, can help you regain control and think through your options. Silence is a powerful tool in emotionally charged situations. When you choose not to respond immediately, especially when someone is upset with you, it can give you the space to collect your thoughts and avoid saying something you might regret. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. By staying calm and choosing not to engage in an emotional exchange, you signal to the other person that you're not going to escalate the situation further. It can also give the other person the opportunity to calm down and reflect on what they're saying. Another way to stay emotionally neutral is to practice empathy. Often, when people act out in anger or frustration, it's a reflection of their own struggles, fears, or insecurities. When you understand that their behavior is more about them than about you, it becomes easier not to take it personally. Instead of reacting defensively or with anger, you can choose to listen and empathize with what they're going through. This doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but it allows you to maintain your emotional balance without getting swept up in their energy. It's also crucial to set boundaries for yourself in these situations. If someone is constantly pushing your emotional buttons, it's important to recognize that you have the right to step away from the interaction. You don't have to subject yourself to ongoing stress or negativity. It's okay to remove yourself from a situation temporarily to regain your composure and avoid reacting impulsively. In some cases, it might be necessary to establish clearer boundaries with people who tend to push you into emotional reactions, whether it's in your personal or professional life. Remember, you don't have to control or change how other people act. The only thing within your control is how you respond. While it can be difficult not to react when someone else is angry or upset, it's important to recognize that you don't have to mirror their emotions. You can remain calm, centered, and composed, regardless of what's going on around you. In fact, staying emotionally neutral can often help diffuse a tense situation and create an opportunity for peaceful resolution. The goal here is not to suppress your emotions or bottle them up. Instead, it's about learning to navigate your emotions in a healthy way. Emotional neutrality doesn't mean you don't feel or care. It means you're not letting your emotions control you. You're choosing how to respond in a way that aligns with your values, your long-term goals, and your peace of mind. It's about understanding that emotions are natural, but that you don't have to act on them impulsively. One of the benefits of staying emotionally neutral is that it allows you to communicate more effectively. When you're not caught up in an emotional reaction, you're better able to listen to the other person, understand their point of view, and respond in a thoughtful way. This creates an opportunity for a productive conversation rather than an argument. Emotional neutrality allows you to be present in the moment, rather than getting lost in your own emotional response. In heated moments, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. But by staying emotionally neutral, you remind yourself that this moment doesn't define you, and it doesn't have to control you. You're in charge of your emotional response, and you can choose to stay calm, collected, and thoughtful, even when those around you are reacting emotionally. This gives you the space to respond in a way that supports your values and your well-being, rather than getting caught up in the drama of the moment. The more you practice emotional neutrality, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you'll find that you're less reactive in situations that would have once triggered you. You'll feel more confident in your ability to handle difficult conversations, conflicts, or challenges with a calm and steady mind. This doesn't mean you won't ever feel emotions like anger or frustration, but it means you'll have the ability to control how you respond to them. Emotional neutrality gives you the power to navigate life's ups and downs with a sense of peace and clarity, no matter what others may say or do. Chapter 14. Learning to observe instead of react. Emotions are powerful, and in many situations it feels like we have no control over them. They can be overwhelming and sometimes seem to come out of nowhere, catching us by surprise and making us react in ways we later regret. The truth is, emotions are natural, but they don't have to control us. One of the most transformative things you can learn in life is how to observe your emotions instead of immediately reacting to them. This isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about taking a step back, recognizing your emotions as they arise, and choosing how to respond in a way that aligns with your best interests and long-term goals. The first step in learning to observe instead of react is to become aware of when emotions are surfacing. This might seem obvious, but many of us go through life on autopilot, not even noticing the subtle signs that our emotions are starting to rise. We get triggered by a comment, an event, or a person, and without realizing it, our body and mind start to shift into a reactive mode. Our heart rate increases, our body tenses up, and our thoughts become more hurried or defensive. This is when we need to stop and pay attention to what's happening inside us. When you notice these early signs, that's the moment to pause. Rather than letting your emotions take over, give yourself a few seconds to breathe deeply and check in with yourself. This small pause allows you to create some space between the trigger and your reaction. It's like hitting the pause button on your automatic response. This doesn't mean you need to solve the problem or even respond right away. It just means you're giving yourself time to regain control over your emotional state. As you practice this, you'll notice that your ability to observe your emotions increases. Instead of immediately reacting to a person's harsh words or a stressful situation, you'll begin to notice the way your body feels and the thoughts that are running through your mind. By recognizing the emotions without acting on them, you give yourself the power to choose how you respond. You can choose to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively, which is often what leads to regret. Another important part of observing instead of reacting is learning to detach from the situation. When something happens that triggers a strong emotional response, it's easy to feel like you're completely involved in it. You feel the weight of the emotion as though it's a part of who you are. But in reality, emotions are just temporary states that arise and pass away. They're not who you are, and they don't have to define your actions. By practicing detachment, you can recognize the emotion without letting it dictate your behavior. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring or become indifferent to what's happening around you. It simply means that you don't let the situation or the emotion control you. Instead, you step back and observe the event as if you were an outsider watching it unfold. When you detach in this way, you're able to assess the situation more clearly, without the haze of strong emotions clouding your judgment. It's also helpful to reframe the situation in a way that allows you to see it from a different perspective. If someone says something that upsets you, instead of focusing on how their words make you feel, try to see the situation as an opportunity for growth. Maybe they're upset about something else and took it out on you. Perhaps their words are more about their own struggles than about you. By shifting your perspective, you can transform the way you feel about the situation. Rather than getting caught up in a negative emotional spiral, you can choose to see it as an opportunity to remain calm and composed. Another strategy for observing your emotions instead of reacting is mindfulness. This practice involves being fully present in the moment without judgment. Mindfulness helps you become aware of your thoughts and feelings as they arise, without getting swept away by them. When you practice mindfulness, you learn to notice your emotions, acknowledge them, and then let them go without letting them control your behavior. Over time, mindfulness strengthens your ability to observe your emotions without immediately reacting to them. One of the biggest challenges in observing your emotions instead of reacting is learning to sit with discomfort. Often, when we feel anger, frustration, or sadness, we want to push those feelings away as quickly as possible. We don't want to feel those negative emotions, so we react in a way that tries to escape them. But the truth is, emotions are not dangerous. They are temporary, and they will pass if we allow them to. By practicing emotional observation, you train yourself to sit with the discomfort of strong emotions without letting them take over. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to stay calm and centered, no matter what emotions arise. It's also important to remember that you don't need to act on every emotion you feel. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean you have to yell. Just because you feel hurt doesn't mean you need to shut down. Emotions are signals, but they're not commands. They let you know what's happening inside of you, but you don't have to take immediate action based on them. By observing your emotions, you create the space to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. As you continue to practice observing your emotions, you'll begin to notice a shift in how you approach life. Instead of feeling like you're at the mercy of your emotions, you'll start to feel more in control. You'll recognize that you can feel your emotions without being consumed by them. You'll also find that your relationships improve because you're not reacting out of anger, frustration, or fear. Instead, you're able to respond with understanding, patience, and empathy. Over time, this practice becomes more natural. The more you observe your emotions, the less power they have over you. You'll find that you're able to stay calm in situations that would have previously sent you into a spiral of stress or frustration. You'll also notice that you feel more connected to others because you're not letting your emotions control your interactions. Instead of reacting to the world around you, you're responding with intention and clarity. And this simple shift, choosing to observe instead of react, can have a profound impact on every area of your life. Chapter 15. Turning emotional control into a daily habit. The power of controlling your emotions doesn't come overnight. It's not something that's going to happen just by reading a few chapters or hearing a few motivational phrases. Like any worthwhile skill, emotional control is built through daily practice, persistence, and self-awareness. It requires consistency and patience. but the rewards: peace of mind, healthier relationships, a clearer path to your goals are more than worth the effort. Turning emotional control into a daily habit starts with small, intentional actions that build over time. It's not about expecting perfection, but about creating a foundation of understanding and mindfulness that can grow stronger each day. The more you practice, the more it becomes second nature. Start by acknowledging that emotional control is not about suppression. It's not about denying yourself the right to feel. Feelings, whether good or bad, are part of being human. It's okay to feel anger, sadness, frustration, or joy. The problem lies in reacting without thought, letting those emotions drive your actions in ways that may not align with your values or goals. Emotional control isn't about stopping feelings from occurring. It's about choosing how to respond when they do. The first step in building this habit is creating awareness. Each day, take time to notice what's going on inside you. When you wake up in the morning, take a moment to check in with your emotional state. Are you feeling anxious about the day ahead? Are you feeling hopeful or excited? By simply taking note of your emotions, you're already creating a moment of mindfulness. This is the beginning of the habit. It's easy to let emotions slip by unnoticed in the rush of daily life, but by pausing and acknowledging them, you can gain more control. As you go through the day, continue to check in with yourself. How are you feeling during meetings or when you're interacting with others? Are you reacting out of stress when someone cuts you off in traffic, or are you responding thoughtfully? Being aware of your emotional state at different points during the day is key. It allows you to catch yourself before you react. And when you do catch yourself, take a deep breath and remind yourself that you have the power to choose your response. This doesn't mean you have to ignore or bottle up your emotions. It means you can give yourself the space to decide how you want to act in any given moment. Another powerful way to make emotional control a habit is to set small goals for yourself. You don't need to become emotionally composed in every situation all at once. Start by choosing one area of your life where you know you tend to overreact. Maybe it's when you're feeling stressed at work or when someone criticizes you. Focus on one scenario and then make a conscious decision to practice emotional control in that moment. If you catch yourself reacting, pause and choose a response that's more in line with your best self. Each small victory will build your confidence and strengthen your habit. Over time, you can expand to other areas of your life, but starting with manageable goals allows you to build momentum. Consistency is crucial. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to stay in control of your emotions. Every time you choose not to react in anger or frustration, you're reinforcing that habit. Each time you pause before responding, you're strengthening your ability to respond thoughtfully. Just like any other skill, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. It's also important to be patient with yourself during this process. There will be times when you slip up, when your emotions get the better of you. That's okay. What matters is that you keep going, keep practicing, and keep improving. Building this habit is a journey, not a destination. One of the most valuable things you can do to make emotional control a habit is to reflect on your progress. At the end of each day, take a moment to think about how you handled your emotions. Were there moments when you stayed calm under pressure? Did you handle a difficult conversation with patience and understanding? Take note of these successes, no matter how small they may seem. Celebrate the times when you chose to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This reflection is important because it helps you recognize your growth. And when you notice your progress, it motivates you to keep going. Another key to making emotional control a habit is incorporating self-care into your routine. When you're taking care of your physical and mental health, it's easier to stay emotionally balanced. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, eating well, and exercising regularly. These habits all contribute to emotional well-being. When you're well-rested and physically healthy, you're better equipped to handle the ups and downs of life without letting your emotions take control. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation or journaling, can also be incredibly helpful in building emotional control. Taking time each day to sit quietly and observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment creates the space for emotional clarity. This practice helps you become more aware of your emotional patterns and strengthens your ability to respond rather than react. Even just 5 minutes a day can have a significant impact on your ability to stay centered and emotionally balanced. Remember, emotional control isn't about being perfect or never feeling intense emotions. It's about creating a life where you have the tools to navigate those emotions in a healthy, intentional way. Over time, as emotional control becomes a daily habit, you'll notice the positive impact it has on your life. You'll feel more at peace with yourself and the world around you. Your relationships will improve because you'll be responding to others with patience and understanding instead of defensiveness or anger. Your stress levels will decrease because you won't be giving in to emotional reactions that drain your energy, and you'll feel more confident in your ability to handle whatever life throws your way. The power of emotional control is that it empowers you to live your life on your own terms. Instead of letting emotions dictate your actions, you'll be in the driver's seat, making conscious decisions about how to respond in every situation. This kind of control isn't about suppressing your emotions, it's about mastering them so that they don't master you. With practice, consistency, and self-awareness, emotional control will become a natural part of who you are, and the rewards of a calmer, more focused life will follow.